This is the MochaFootball.com. This is the MochaFootball.com weekly podcast. Damon, we're almost to the finish line, man. We're almost there. And it's been a great season so far. I think that this little 3-week period right here, we're going to find out a lot. I think we might actually find out more in this 3-week period than we found out, the whole season about some teams. We had the game of the week last week was Blair versus Springbrook. We're going to get into that game. We're going to get into this week's game of the week, which is the epic matchup. I mean, this is the game that we've been waiting for since the end of the season last season. We've been talking about this game, Damon, which is Northwest versus QO. We got some other interesting matches that we're going to get into. First, before we get into anything, we're going to get into last week's game of the week. Blair beat Springbrook 38-20. I think Blair really is showing why that people are looking at them as a legit program now. It's not a fluke. It's not a one-hit wonder kind of thing. They are a legit program. Beating a very, very solid Springbrook team, I think, really solidifies them as a legit playoff contender. But Chris Green, Amari Brooks, Cliff Carter, I mean, what needs to be said? Those guys right there, when you talk about wide receiver corps, not only in this county, but maybe in the state, right? It's going to be hard to rival that. It's a special wide receiver corps. They're going to be talked about for years to come. They cemented their history in Blair athletics and everything like that. And you're talking about Desmond Colby, and we have to remember this kid is just a junior. And you're talking about leading the county in passing yards with over 1,700. They just keep on rolling, man. So what do you think about this game overall, and what kind of statement did Blair make in your opinion?
Like you mentioned, definitely keeps Blair in the conversation, especially when it comes to playoff caliber teams in the county. Colby, he had an awesome game. I mean, 20 for 37, 4 touchdowns, over 400 yards passing. That is ridiculous. He had an outstanding game. Even despite the 2 picks he threw, it didn't seem to phase him one bit. It was an outstanding performance by Blair. This was definitely a test. Springbrook definitely came to play. They weren't going to be a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. But unfortunately for the Blue Devils, Blair just had too much firepower on offense. They couldn't keep up with them. Of note was the 99-yard reception by Chris Green. That was a thing of beauty. And hats off to the coaching staff at Blair for calling that play on the 1-yard line. Worked like a charm.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, Springbrook, they held themselves together. They came away with the loss. Shazu, unfortunately, went down with the injury. I hope he recovers well. But
right.
Even if he was able to stay in the game, I don't think they had enough on offense to keep pace with Blair. I mean, they had 2 kids over 100 yards in Green and Carter. Zakuri chipped in with 81 yards, so it's hard to keep up with that output.
Right.
With all that being said, that basically just, even though it was an outstanding performance, it just keeps Blair barely in the conversation for a playoff spot. Unfortunately for them, it doesn't get any easier this week as they head to Sherwood.
Right.
And then, assuming they get through that, they have the Swarming Hornets waiting for them at the end of the season. So, Blair, I'm sure they were excited and happy with this win, but I guarantee you by Saturday night, they were already focusing on the next game versus Sherwood this Friday.
We talked about this in the offseason and whether Blair was an elite team or not. We're only 6 games in. This is week 7. And based off of last year and what they've done this year, are you putting Blair as an elite team in this county right now as far as the upper echelon ones, whether you're talking about Sherwood, whether you're talking about Damascus, whatever you're talking about? or are they just a notch below, the teams that are, trying to fight for respect right now, maybe like an RM or whatever the case may be? Where do you view them on the map? Because you get totally different opinions when you ask different people.
Personally, I'm not putting Blair in the elite category yet. Elite, by the definition of the word, is a small group, and in Montgomery County, we've decided to narrow that down to 6 teams.
Right.
Now, the 6 teams, especially this year, that's a strong group.
Right.
It would be hard any team to crack that top 6. But Blair's right on the cusp. They are literally right on the cusp. They had 2 shots at elite team in the county this year, and they came away with 2 losses. They lost to Northwest. They lost to Paint Branch.
Right.
Those are 2 elite teams in the county.
Right.
They'll have 2 more shots later on this season. As I mentioned, this week against Sherwood, and at the end of the year versus Damascus. So I don't think anybody can honestly put them in that elite category yet until they beat an elite team. But with that being said, they're right there. Like, if we expanded the elite 6 to 7 or 8 teams,
right.
Yeah, Blair would probably occupy one of those spots. But as it stands right now, they are not an elite team in Montgomery County yet. They're getting there. I mean, they're literally right there, but not yet. Now, if they can pull off an upset over Sherwood or Damascus, then we can revisit this conversation.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, prior to the Week 7 games, I can't put them on that list yet.
Talking about moving forward, we're going to try to look into this week and this week's game of the week, which is the epic matchup. Literally, the minute last season ended, Damon, we've been talking about this game. This is one of those games where there's no love lost. Both teams are kind of been heated rivals for a while. You can look at Northwest and say that they were viewed as the little brothers for a little while in this matchup. Now they've came back and they've gotten 2 state championships, and QO was looking to get back their usual dominance. I think that this game is really going to come down to of Northwest's youth, right? Can Northwest grow up fast before our very eyes in the Cougar Dome on Friday? If they can, this is going to be a very entertaining, interesting game, right? And Northwest will have a great chance to win because they have a lot of talent with Reggie Anderson, Juwan Ferrari, Khalil Owens, Alfonso Foray, guys like that. And of course, the great Mark Pierce, right? If they can, it might get ugly. So I think it really just comes down to maturity for Northwest. They can't look like how they looked versus RM. I felt like there's a lot of good things that came from that RM game for Northwest. Their tempo was a lot faster. They were effectively run the ball with Khalil Owens and Juwan Ferrari. But the same things kind of plagued them. Mistakes, jumping off sides, turnovers, things like that. I mean, just the mistakes keep them from being the same kind of crisp team that we were used to seeing them being. And if they make those mistakes versus QO on Friday, it's going to be a long night for them. To me, that's what it really comes down to. How do you see this game, Damon? I know how you feel about this Friday, but I mean, just analyze this game real quick and give us your opinions on it.
So, just to piggyback off of what you said, Northwest is still Northwest. They have one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the county and in the state. But the problem is there's a lot of young, new pieces around him.
Right.
And it's still a work in progress, so to speak. And honestly, given the way the 2 losses to Seneca Valley and Sherwood shook out, they could easily be 6-0 right now. From what I've seen in those 2 games, there were some drop balls, some tip balls that were typically caught in the years past, at minimum caught, if not going for 6. And that's basically the difference between this year's Jaguars and the Jaguars the past 2 years.
Right.
So it's not an impossible task, and as we as we know from years past, Northwest can drop a couple of games during the season and then go on a state title run.
Absolutely.
That is entirely in the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a stretch at all.
Right.
That being said, they're running into a freight train this week. Ever since that week 1 beat down to Damascus by the hands of Damascus, QO's been on a roll. They're kicking tail and taking names. They scored no less than 41 points for 5 weeks in a row.
Right.
The offense is clicking. The defense is improved, especially in the secondary, which is good because they're going to be put to the test this week by Northwest more than any other team that they've faced this year.
Right, right.
So for me, it comes down to whether Northwest, and this is going to sound odd, especially talking about Northwest. It's going to come down to, can Northwest keep up with the QO offense?
Yeah.
In years past, it's been the other way around, but from what I've seen this season, it's basically flipped because the Northwest defense is drastically improved.
Oh, absolutely.
Over years past.
Absolutely.
Drastically improved.
Yeah, they're top tier
defense. The defense is looking nice.
Yeah.
So that's basically what it's going to boil down to. Can the Northwest offense keep up with the points that QO is going to put on the board? And they will put some points on the board. For QO, I'm mainly going to be focused on number 1, Sean Barlow.
Right.
Coming into the season, Beander, Doc Bonner, the offensive and defensive line got a lot of pub, but Sean Barlow is quietly becoming the MVP of that Quince Orchard team, in my opinion. He's playing at a high level right now, and that spells problems for a lot of teams because that's just another thing you have to worry about.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you got to focus on Beander and what he's going to do.
Right.
You obviously have on Kim at fullback. You have to focus on Doc Bonner and his play action abilities. But then you add Sean Barlow, who can literally line up anywhere on offense. That's hard to do.
Yeah, I love him.
And we're not even talking about his play at corner on defense. So
yeah, I love him.
I'm really going to be focused on number 1 for QO to see how Northwest plays him and where they try to filter him on the field if they can.
Right.
But with all that being said, I know this is going to come as a surprise to everybody, but I'm picking Quince Orchard to win.
Right.
35-21.
Okay. I actually thought that you were gonna go kind of ham on it, but you kept yourself under control. Kept yourself under control, and I respect that. Now to my team. Sherwood. I think that I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Warriors right now. They look focused. They have guys stepping up. I mean,
that would be crazy.
What do you think about this game, Damon? And do you think that that Blair has enough to win?
We talked about Blair at the top of the podcast and the outstanding job that they've done this year. Yeah, what more needs to be said about Desmond Colby, Chris Green, Clifford Carter, and the rest of the kids over there? They've done an outstanding job this year.
Right.
However, as I mentioned, this may be their toughest game of the season, and that's saying a lot for a team that's already played Northwest and Paint Branch.
Right.
Sherwood's on a roll. On the field, they are undefeated.
Right.
They're playing at a high level. It's almost, how can I put, I won't say they are a very balanced team. Sherwood is. Extremely balanced team.
Yep.
I think Blair is going to put points up on the board, but it's not going to be anywhere near as easy or as comfortable as they have been in previous games. But the offensive output, I don't think is going to be a problem for Blair. Where Blair's going to run into issues is on defense, and specifically rushing defense.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they are going to have their hands full with Travis Levy.
Yeah.
Just by nature and just because you have to, you're going to have to give a lot of attention to Marcus Sims.
Right.
If you don't, he's going to light you up. But what that does is open up the run game for Travis Levy, who's having an outstanding year so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I think it's going to get away from the Blazers a little early, and the Warriors are going to, the final score is going to look worse than that game actually is.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Sherwood's going to come out on top. I'm going with 45 to 22.
Okay. You know I will take that. I'll take that. That's all the time we have for this week, everybody. We got a few games on Thursday. There's some games that have some playoff implications. You know, obviously Blake and Magruder, Watkins Mill, Rockville. What is it, the 3A South?
Correct.
The 3A South division. You know, they're still fighting out down there, trying to figure out who's gonna those few playoff spots. And there's a few teams still in the mix, man. I mean, look, everybody's still in the mix. To be honest with you,
yeah.
I mean,
literally, statistically speaking, no team has been eliminated from the playoffs yet.
Yeah, I mean, literally everybody's in the mix. So they're still finding it out. Magruder, you know, has a shot. Rockville has a shot. Watkinsville looks like to be the leader right now, but you know, who knows?
Wheaton is still in the mix.
Wheaton's still in the mix. Wheaton got a really tough game.
Yeah.
They got a really tough game for Sitka. So I mean, that's not gonna help out anything. But hey, like I said, you can take a few L's in this side in the 3A South. You know, you can take a few L's because it's not that strong. Let's just be real. But I mean, it'll be a great opportunity for one of these teams to get in and maybe possibly win one or maybe two games, like I predicted in the beginning of the season. So yeah, you got that situation going on. Paintbrush Springbrook is a consortium rivalry right there. Some bad blood. Springbrook rivalry goes back a ways and had some really great players in it. Some All Met guys. Is there anything that you want to say, Dan, before we head on out here?
As usual, if you have any questions or comments, hit me up at Nomad Anderson on Twitter, or shoot me a message on the message board at mocofootball.com. Another out-of-county matchup between the Wootton Patriots and the Ligonor Lancers. Wooten's heading up to Frederick County to take on the undefeated Lancers. Hopefully they can come back with the W. It'll be 2 weeks in a row after Clarksburg beat Urbana last week in an awesome game. And for those of you that don't know, there will be at least one team this week getting their first W of the season.
Yep.
Kennedy is traveling to Einstein to 0-6 teams.
Right.
Somebody's coming away with a W.
Somebody got to. There's no ties.
No ties. So hats off to the coaching staff and kids at Kennedy and Einstein. I know it's rough, but hats off to all you guys for, you know, sticking to it for the love of the game. I honestly hoped and wished things would work out better for both squads, but this is a game that everybody can look forward to. It should be competitive for both of those teams. So hats off to both of those squads. Yeah, somebody is not going winless this season, and that's a good thing. Everybody deserves to feel the thrill and the elation and joy from a hard-fought victory.
Everybody, that's all with the time we have, and get out to the games as much as you can. Like I said, if you want to catch a Thursday night game and come back on Friday night and get some more action, that'd be great. This is the MocoFootball.com weekly podcast, and we're out.
Go Kilo!